MS-13 is a transnational gang. It originated in the United States but is today headquartered in El Salvador. It is estimated to be comprised of up to 30,000 members. Most of these members are located in the Northern Triangle. That is the graphic to the right over here. The three countries that make up the Northern Triangle are El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. All three countries are located in Central America. This is a strategic consideration when you factor in the American Southwest region because there's a land route from Central America to the United States. There's a very good reason that MS-13 is the gang most numerously apprehended trying to get into the United States. Plants migrate, animals migrate, and of course, crime and criminals migrate. Southwestern law enforcement is in a unique position as far as MS-13 is concerned because agencies must deal with both foreign members of MS-13 coming into the country as well as domestic cliques. The gang gives law enforcement the problem of dealing with extradition. There have been instances where an MS-13 member kills some people for whatever reason and flees to Central America. Extradition is possible, but it is cumbersome. In this briefing, we will discuss how MS-13 is organized. I will talk about who are members and clear up some possible myths and misconceptions. Then we will move on to funding. Then we will examine counter-operations and their effectiveness. The last part of this briefing is dedicated to fielding questions people might have about MS-13. Organization. They are organized into what are called cliques. How cliques are operated varies from region to region. The ethnic and linguistic similarities among gang members serves as a means to strengthen solidarity and cohesion within cliques. Cliques have been known to guard their perceived territory fiercely. Gang members have murdered people due to the people having been mistaken for members of rival gangs. Some cliques have strong ties to leadership in the Northern Triangle, and some do not. The nationality of members of cliques varies as well. Many will have immigrants, legal and otherwise, and some will be composed of American citizens. Despite their differences, all cliques share a similar goal, and that is to generate money. Membership. Similar to other gangs, especially as we here in the United States are concerned, their membership is made up of mostly young men who vary in terms of intelligence, education, and will to violence. Some of them are foreign-born, and some could be born in the United States. Gangs are nothing new to the United States, and for all the talk about MS-13, it is just another underworld organization. One thing I have heard mentioned in the media quite often is that some members of MS-13 are former police officers or veterans of special forces. This fear is probably from the fact that Central and South America has been a hotbed of unrest after the Vietnam War. Service members did go to those regions and did work as mercenaries. The literature does to some extent confirm this, but is far more likely to occur in the Northern Triangle, where MS-13 is more thoroughly entrenched. Gang members have tried to join the U.S. military with varying success, but it is still far more the exception than the rule. The military does look into the potential gang affiliation of new recruits. I know a guy who was kicked out of boot camp because of suspected gang affiliation. Where can you find them in the United States? As you can see from this graphic, they're in most states. They have some presence, but what I want to draw your attention to is the Southwest region. As you can see, they are operating more here than in any other region. Why? Closer to headquarters. Take a look at these things right here. These are tattoos and example of graffiti. Criminal enterprises tend to give out three types of indicators. First are those that are meant to be known by the general public, that is graffiti and tattoos. The second type are those that are meant to be known by other criminal enterprises in the area. That can be tattoos or graffiti. Sometimes, though, it can be an emblem that's given to a member of a criminal enterprise if he kills someone from a rival organization. Then there are indicators that are meant to be known by only members of that organization. Biker gangs are famous for this. They're the best example. There's patches that identify who has killed for the gang or gone to prison for the gang. And that's information meant to be readily apparent when members of that organization meet each other. Funding. Like any organized crime group, MS-13 cannot accomplish anything unless it has some form of revenue. Cliques are financed through a variety of criminal activity. These include drug trafficking, prostitution, extortion, human trafficking, and robbery. It is safe to assume that if there is an antisocial enterprise capable of making money, MS-13 will be partaking of such an enterprise. It is estimated that MS-13 earned up to $756 million from extortion alone in 1 year. That figure is the total, but that research was done in Northern Triangle countries. So that number does not reflect the amount generated by cliques in the United States, nor the southwestern region specifically. Narcotics operations are obviously a huge source of revenue. In 2012, a shipment of 113 kilos of cocaine was seized in transit. The large amount of narcotics is disturbing as it was far larger than the previous year's catches. Again, I want to direct your attention to the graphic used earlier. Where is cocaine mostly grown? Colombia, currently. Colombia is the most northern of the South American countries, so the Northern Triangle is more or less in an ideal spot to funnel drugs into America. You can see where Colombia is located in relation to the Northern Triangle here. As the saying goes, the more you study maps, the more you know about chaps. There are 15 routes MS-13 can utilize to get cocaine into El Salvador and further north, and they are trying. Look at the numbers. 273,580 pounds of cocaine in 2017. 282,570 pounds of cocaine in 2018. That was not all from MS-13, of course, but you get the idea. Take a second to absorb these numbers. Other sources of funding, anything other than white-collar crime. I could not find any instance of white-collar crime being committed by MS-13. But you name it, they do it. Smuggling, human trafficking, prostitution rings, robbery. I could not find any reliable numbers on how much they generate. I reached out to experts and searched hard and sadly found nothing. But it is but if it's an antisocial enterprise, you can bet the gang is exploiting it. What has worked? There seem to be two methods to counter MS-13, standalone methods and multi-agency cooperation. By standalone, I mean one agency is trying to counter MS-13. The most successful single-agency efforts are those that are being done by Customs and Border Patrol. Let us look at how many members of MS-13 have been intercepted at the borders in 2017 and 2018. Catching criminals at the border is the most optimal scenario. Because once in the United States, MS-13 members will commit crime and have communities to hide, and whether you agree with the concept of the wall or not doesn't matter. We cannot counter MS-13 without secure borders. The transnational nature of MS-13 often calls for a multi-agency solution. I'm going to briefly discuss two such initiatives that were successful in causing the arrest and prosecution of dozens of MS-13 members. The first one I want to discuss is Operation Devil Horns. Like so many counter-gang initiatives, this came about due to a clique's violent outburst in which several non-gang members were killed. The specific partnership was between Homeland Security Investigations National Gang Unit and the Gang Squad Division within the Department of Justice. One of the main suspects was out of the country at the time, and extradition had to be worked out. This case showed that simply crossing a border no longer means you are safe from prosecution. The second is Operation Raging Bull, which was part of a larger, more comprehensive initiative known as Operation Community Shield. Community Shield was created in 2005. The thing that sets Operation Raging Bull apart from the above-mentioned partnerships is that this effort involved law enforcement agencies on multiple levels, such as local and federal. ICE is a large agency that is well-funded, and it can lend aid to organizations that lack both personnel and budget. The partnership has proven fruitful. The operation has resulted in the arrest of hundreds of MS-13 gang members. What can law enforcement do moving forward? I would say the number one thing is relationships among agencies. Relationships, be it personal or professional, are difficult to cultivate, hard to begin and hard to maintain. We see great things happen when resources are pooled, but often this is done in response only to a violent crime, and resources and efforts are dissolved. Agencies no longer coordinate or share information after a while. I think you also have generational issues as well. A lot of people coming out of the colleges may not have as much a desire to meet with other colleagues, save for exchanging electronic communications. People these days are easy to contact, but hard to get to know. Add to this the current issue of the coronavirus, in which people are quite literally trying to avoid everyone as much as possible. If every agency knew what other agencies did about organized crime groups, they wouldn't. The organized crime groups would just not be as effective as they are. Now I will field some questions from the Southwest Law Enforcement Committee, or SLEC. First question is, how much control does the Northern Triangle MS-13 cliques have over the cliques in the United States? The answer is going to be that it varies. All cliques have to send some percentage of earnings back to El Salvador, but that will vary as well. And please keep in mind that some MS-13 cliques are going to be composed of members of people primarily from the Northern Triangle, and some are going to be from other regions. Does MS-13 have a gang structure within prison? Yes, they have a network within the penitentiary system. They pass intelligence and contraband within and out of prisons. They participate in the prison drug trade. There's contracted killings of members who cooperated with authorities. Simply putting MS-13 members behind bars will not cease that member's functions. What is the relationship MS-13 has with other criminal groups? The short answer is that it has nothing but disdain for any other organization and will kill any other group that tries to get into its territory. The largest rivalry is with Barrio 18 because they often occupy the same regions. That means there is obviously going to be more tension between MS-13 and Barrio 18 than there is between MS-13 and Hezbollah. Again, we look at maps and shaps. Outside of a clique's territory, it stands to reason that they do business with other groups for the trading and smuggling of drugs, but the literature is completely absent on this. One interesting thing is that the Los Angeles clique pays money to the Mexican mafia. This is probably due to the Mexican mafia being well entrenched before MS-13 set up operations in the area, and all-out war would have not benefited either gang. In the past, we have seen MS-13 kill witnesses and informants. What type of counterintelligence techniques does MS-13 employ? I wish I had an answer for this. It is sad because no criminal justice program I know of has any classes dedicated to how criminals go about getting information on law enforcement operations against them. MS-13 took out a witness in Washington, D.C. That is the FBI and DEA country right there. Possibly they are exploiting the fact that many people use immigrants for household or domestic services. Police officers and agents may speak freely in front of such people, thinking their words have no consequences, that the person they're talking to doesn't understand English. There's the old reliable method of bribery. Blackmail can be effective, but as with figures on money generated from the drug trade, there is no reliable source of information on this topic. Thank you.